Okay, I saved the data log from my 135 mile an hour run. I have it called up on the laptop, so we'll go over that and the setup on the boat in crazy detail. We'll start with a look inside at the electronics package. I'll go over everything that's in the boat and everything about the setup, and I'll give you my thoughts on why I'm doing what I'm doing as far as electronics choice and setup as we go. So here's all the secret sauce. I'm running a Castle Creations XLX2 ESC TP power motor. This is the CM series. It's the 4050 motor, which is 40 millimeter by 82 millimeter can, 2200 kV. And I'll talk in a little bit about that high of a kV on an 8S setup. So I got all 8 gauge wiring throughout with QS8 connectors. I'm running a pair of SMC 6200 milliamp hour SRD lipos in series. There's my series harness. For the servo on the rudder, it's a waterproof Savox servo, 208 inch ounces at 6 volts. All the hardware in the back is stock Zippkits hardware. I modified the strut by adding an extra bolt so I can maintain my prop shaft angle. Single bolt would move on me. And I'm running an ABC prop that I prepped. It's a 1921-1938 prop. I believe that's the strongest prop that ABC makes. In terms of in a 1.9 diameter as far as the pitch and the rake angle. Here are the Speedrun Drag Series SMC lipos, and I don't have the battery tray in there. Otherwise, as you can see, these would not fit. So I'm just running it with jam foam. Back to the motor and the kV that I'm running on 8S. So this is a CM series, which is a stronger series of motor, and it can handle more RPMs, rated for 80,000 RPMs. So I'm running that on 8S for saw runs only. From what I've seen from all the runs I've done, and we're just talking saw runs, you're not going to get that kind of speed without the higher kV. So, yes, we're stressing electronics, but we're taking care of things by highest milliamp hour lipos I can fit in the boat, which means less voltage sag, high discharge, short as wires as possible throughout the whole setup, big quality connectors, an ESC that can handle the amp loads, and a motor that can handle the RPMs and has the kV to reach that kind of speeds, along with a very aggressive prop. So boat weight comes into play, setup comes into play to be able to do this and not overheat the electronics, and also for them to last. You can make your runs, but if you're getting too high ripple current, over 10%, it will run for a while, maybe 8 or 10 runs or a little more, and then you're going to cook this right here. The ESC will not hold up to it. But if all your data log numbers are healthy numbers, you can get away with that kind of kV, and that's key to getting the speeds that I'm running. But also, the right along with it, it has to match up with a loose setup. Here's some little things that add up. I went with the stock Zippkits motor mount. It's just a plate that's keyed into the sides of the tub. You won't find a lighter motor mount on the market. To fit these big lipos, I don't have a battery tray, just the jam foam, like I said. So that's weight that's not in the boat as far as the wood mount. I also have my ESC just Velcroed to the bottom of the boat. No mount for the ESC. Let's take a look at the all-up weight of the boat with the lipos in it. She's coming at just a touch over 8 pounds. So also very important to how this runs, I made every effort that I could to build the boat as light as possible for an 8S setup. Okay, let's look at the data log next. I had 2 runs in that video, 127 mile an hour run and 135 mile an hour run. I'm just going to look at the data log numbers in the 135 mile an hour run. I have the graph zoomed in on the 135 mile an hour run from when I took off to where I let off. And I also have some session notes that will show the major numbers at a glance. So 1.39 volts ripple current. That was right in here on the run. Even though the max shows a little higher at 1.55, that was on the first run. So that's 4.69%, well under 10%. 378 amps, 10,294 watts, or 13.81 horsepower, 49,565 RPM, and my voltage only sagged to 3.4 volts per cell, 27.23 divided by 8. So I'll move the mouse around and we'll look at these numbers. I have all these turned off. I'm not interested in them, those numbers. And we'll start with the battery voltage. And I'm going to zoom this in now a little closer on the, so this is a transition. Coming through the transition, I'm going to zoom in on the full trigger pull. Okay, so here is where this blue line right up here, you have throttle and power out. So this is just a random number that I don't understand. 1.911 ms is my max throttle position. And they kind of work together, so I'll just turn that off. Clean this up a little bit. So here's max power out. This blue line right up here. So that is exactly 2 seconds. 644.2 seconds to 646.2. These lines line up. So 2 second full trigger pull. Here's my highest ripple current. So it shows the mouse position right here, 1.39. And it gets kind of interesting when you look at, here's full power out from here across to here. And here is the motor RPMs, which is in red. So this line right here, it's climbing as I'm coming through the transition, full power, and 49,565 peaked right here, and then I let off. But the other numbers, like the power, so I got it on horsepower right now. That's blue. Most horsepower and the most amp draw makes sense. They go hand in hand. came in early when I went to full trigger. This drop right here is the boat releasing, freeing up as far as the setup as it's running across the water and reaching high speed. So both the power output and the amps are dropping. RPMs are going up. And interestingly enough, though, when right here, I'm looking at the battery voltage, 27.23, early on in the full trigger pull, and that kind of holds the whole way and even pulls it down a little more. It's time that I'm holding full trigger, and even though the boat's releasing, tells me I don't have a lot of prop slip. It's accelerating and just still pulling amps, or pulling the battery voltage down. It's holding it down pretty good all the way through the full trigger pull, but yet the amps and horsepower dropping off. So I want to stress again, this number right here, your ripple current. If you don't have all the things I said in the setup, short wires, heavy wires, big quality connectors, quality batteries, so that would be milliamp hour and discharge rate, your ESC is pulsing the current. They're called MOSFETs. They're releasing the power as your highest ripple current is coming through the transition. Look at the ripple current, just drops off, right, as when you go to full power, because that is just power going from the lipos through the ESC to the motor. But as it's pulsing, that's why they call it a ripple. That is the number one ESC killer. And that will be higher if you don't have the lipos can supply the power, don't have the resistance in the wires from length of wire, gauge of wire, connectors, and it will burn up an ESC every time. So I look at these numbers and go back to the session notes. These are very healthy numbers, which, as the saying goes, I should be able to run this kind of speed with this setup all day. So I said this was going to be a deep dive and trying to paint the picture. When I get comments where you just have a question, what prop you running, what kV motor? That's important information, but one or two pieces of information is not going to get you speeds north of 100 even, to be honest. So, like I said, trying to paint a picture here, and you need all of it, and they're all related. And also, very critical to me, knowing your numbers on your boat. Numbers being center of gravity, curved turn fin angle, prop shaft angle, rake on your prop. Diameter and pitch important, but rake is a tuning number as far as how the boat's going to run. So let's take a look now at the setup on the boat. I use a digital pitch gauge because I've seen the difference that 1 or 2/10 of a degree can make in a setup as far as how the boat runs. So you need a surface that's level, so it could be the top or the bottom of this tub on this boat, and I need it to be able to repeat on 0. And talking about the relationship of the curved turn fin versus the prop shaft angle. The idea of a curved turn fin, give it positive angle and it hydroplanes, it rides up, and then because the left side torques up, it rides up on the curved turn fin. That's what they say. And then I see the relationship between the curved turn fin and the prop shaft or strut angle as 0 or negative on the prop shaft angle and a positive angle on the curved turn fin, both of these settings are lifting the boat and allowing it to ride in a level attitude at high speed. No curved turn fin. In order to lift the front of the boat, center of gravity is way up here, prop shaft is back here. You put positive angle and you're pushing the back of the boat in the water. And I feel like when you're riding with the attitude of the boat, the tub at an angle, very unpredictable, very prone to blowing off. So here's the settings on the curved turn fin that I ran. Positive 0.3 of a degree. Here is my prop shaft angle setting, and I use this flat surface on top of the strut. So I just squeeze that on their level, and I find this very interesting. I had that set at 0.3 of a degree. So that's what's called creep, from the force of the boat running, pushing down below this bracket here. This has actually changed, and I would not have known that without setting that with a digital pitch gauge. That's why I added this extra bolt here. But now I know that speed that I ran, it actually ran at negative 0.5 of a degree, not 0.3 of a degree where I set it at. One other thing of note in this deep dive is the prop shaft angle or strut angle and the rake angle. So the thrust cone that the rake angle makes, those two combined gives you the lift in the back of the boat. So level, positive or negative setting on the prop shaft angle, along with the water, the blast of the thrust cone that's below the surface of water, those combined set up how much lift you have in the back of the boat. Here is where my center of gravity is. So I have two pivot points. I'm doing this because I have this bottom ski that's in the way. So if I line this up square, so I'm at that point on both sides, there is an accurate measurement on my center of gravity. And let's take a closer look at that. I have it marked on both sides, piece of black tape, and then I take this aluminum plate that I know to be square, hold it square or flush on the side of the tub, that mark, and measure that. I am 1 inch, center of gravity is 1 inch behind the back edge of the curved turn fin. So there you have it. That is my setup of this 33, my 135 mile an hour setup in crazy detail, like I said in the beginning. Also, all the secret sauce. Everything that I showed in this video goes into that kind of speed and work together to create that kind of speed. One or two settings, one or two specs, kVA of the motor, size prop, not going to do it. And on top of that, you got to drive the boat. And by that I mean, with this setup, if I jam it through the transition, I can flip the boat. That's how loose the setup is. But I also like using a curved turn fin along with a prop shaft angle and the rake angle, lift in the hull so it can run with this kind of power at a level attitude. I like how it behaves when I go to full trigger. These Zippkits riggers, they are on rails. So you can set up some settings on a boat that will loosen up and make it go faster, but you don't have the confidence to go to full trigger with this much power. So if you made it this far, there it is. All the secret sauce. Not one thing or two or three is going to get you there. It's all of it. So good luck with your boats. I believe in sharing this. I've learned this from others and I appreciate it. So hopefully you can use this, or at least a good part of this, and get some better speeds out of your RC boat.